Hello, this is John Pacenti, Senior Manager for Investigative and In-Depth Content for WPTV. And today we are joined by uh, Mari Blanco, Assistant Executive Director of the Guatemalan-Maya Center in Lake Worth. How are you doing?
Doing great, John. And yourself?
Good, good. So the reason that we're talking today is yesterday, one of several incidents involving migrants that I want to address with you. But the impetus for us being here today is that maybe you saw that about 50 migrants came ashore in Jupiter while beachgoers were sunbathing. They were on a boat and they just simply, they exited the boat, and as some people said, they were seemed like they were running for their lives. Uh, this has this is our most local incident, but worldwide we have seen nearly 30 migrants drown in the English Channel last month, and then last week we saw a horrendous truck accident that killed 50 migrants in Mexico. Correct?
That's correct, yes.
So, can you tell me how dangerous it is for a migrant to try to get to whatever country of destination, that they're taking their lives in their hands, and how desperate they have to be to try to make this journey?
Sure, certainly. Well, John, I think the answer is pretty obvious. The people who travel with the intentions of getting to the U.S., who are doing it via boat or they're crossing the border, they're going through what's called La Bestia, they're taking these extremely dangerous journeys, and they know that. And so they will, a lot of times we hear that they'll say goodbye to their families prior to departing because they don't know if they'll ever make it to their destination. And so we know that the journey is dangerous. We see it all the time. We see people die all the time, and part of our job is helping look for those people who are left in the desert, or for family members who have not been heard from in a couple of days. So the journey is certainly dangerous, and you have to imagine that if somebody's taking this journey and they know that there's a chance that they won't make it out alive, their situation at home must be even worse than that.
When you see the videos coming out of Jupiter, that doesn't surprise you. You've seen we've This is something that occurs not infrequently on our shores, correct?
I'm sorry, John, can you repeat that?
Oh, certainly. When you see the video of the migrants coming ashore in Jupiter, that's nothing unusual for our area. I mean, we have been having migrants come ashore that way for decades.
That's correct. Yeah, we see it constantly happen. And I think, we're going to see kind of this revolving door effect of people trying to get in and cross the border in different ways now that we keep having these changes in administration, and there's different politicians who want, who are suggesting different ways of migrating here, or who are suggesting to close the borders completely. We know migration is something that's never going to stop, regardless of the things that we try to put in place here in the U.S. to stop that migration. It's just unfortunate. A lot of countries are really in a crisis, and they're so desperate to get out. Whether it's they're facing war, they're facing famine, and just the pure poverty that these are just kind of the things that we're going to continue to see. And when people travel in this way, one, it might have been the easiest way of travel for them, the most accessible, or it might have been the only option. So it depends on the route and where they're traveling from as well.
Do you think that the United Nations needs to get involved here? That this is a worldwide crisis, and that there needs to be some kind of way that countries deal uniformly with migration?
Certainly, it is a crisis, John, and that's the perfect term to use for it. If we are constantly seeing this, and we are culpable for this kind of migration, when people come and seek asylum and we deny them that asylum in the U.S., which is what happens constantly. I mean, we're definitely to blame for this. So I do think that the UN should get involved in this crisis, because otherwise we're going to continue to see journeys that are just much more dangerous than we're seeing now, and lives are going to continue to be lost. So um I think it's also time that we take responsibility as such a powerful nation.
Right, and one of the problems that whether it be in the English Channel or coming over the border in Mexico or what we saw yesterday in Jupiter, are that the smugglers are the ones that are, you know, running the show here. Do there needs to be some way to address those smugglers? And do you have any ideas on what really is a decades long problem in trying to keep these predators from preying on desperate people?
That's a very difficult question because as of right now, it seems that the smugglers are the only route in coming here. I think that we've seen specifically with either people who are traveling with ICE being turned away, whether it was in the previous administration or now. We know that there's a lot of people who try to seek claiming asylum once they get here, and they are denied that opportunity. And so until we find a better way to allow people in who are seeking asylum, the smugglers really have the upper hand in this. They know that people are desperate enough that they're willing to risk losing everything that they have, including their lives, in order to make this journey. And so the coyotes, the smugglers, have become so sophisticated in the way that they transport these people without being caught that they really just have an advantage right now in terms of migration. So unless we uh, we have a better alternative with our migratory patterns, we're one allowing everybody who comes in to seek asylum if that's what they're claiming, if that's what they're looking for, or finding just a better way to treat the migrants when they come instead of denying them entry. I think the smugglers are going to continue to have the advantage in that situation until we find that alternative.
Now, I know that you, of course, given the name, cater to the Guatemalan and Central American migrants, but I'm sure you are in touch with those who help the Haitian migrants as well. Has there been a more? Have you heard from your counterparts that there's been an uptick in Haitian migration because of the earthquake that happened over the summer, as well as the assassination of the president there? Are we,
I'm sorry, Jen. I think I have poor signal on my end, but I believe you're asking about the Haitian migrants. And I think it's a multitude of things. Poverty, it will always be I think the main cause for people traveling in that way. But certainly when you deprive people of their resources, whether it's a natural disaster that happened and we didn't send help, or if they just a famine, if they don't have the proper resources, I think we're going to continue to see that migration. So our name is the Guatemalan-Maya Center, but we see people from 28 different countries come in, large a part of our people being Haitian, and all of them are looking for the same kind of resources, and that's a roof over their head, food to feed their families, and some sort of financial assistance. So it's pretty basic needs that we see from a lot of these Central American countries as well as some Caribbean countries.
I apologize for the weak signal. What I was asking is, I hope you can hear this. Do you think that the earthquake in Haiti has spurred even more migration from that country?
I would think so. We definitely have seen a lot of Haitian migration from there, and it goes back to what I was saying about the lack of resources. When something that you know tragic happens in one's country, it really reduces the resources that you have. So homes have been destroyed. There's a lack of resources in the country, and it also increases violence in the area. We know just historically when there's a lack of resources, violence and increases because everybody's kind of fighting for the same types of resources, and there's a lot of financial insecurity. So certainly a tragedy like a hurricane or an earthquake would increase
Mhm.
those migration patterns.
I think Father Frank has talked to me about the human right to move. Can you speak about that a little bit? About how he feels as the director of the Guatemalan-Maya Center that humans have a right to be able to migrate.
Yeah, certainly. And that's coming directly from him when we say that we are culpable for this kind of disaster in the nation. people have the right to migrate. I mean, nobody owns any type of land. We know that we've people who are residing here have um, are residing here because we migrated from different areas. And so the right to migrate is just something that um, his that historically everybody has done. So when we are denying someone entry to the country, especially when you've seen the horrors of the journey and you know that this person's only bringing their children here or is only taking this risk where they're willing to die and they're willing their children, they're risking their children's lives. Something has to be terribly wrong at home for them to make these journeys. And so certainly the right to migrate is something that everybody has. And when we say something like, you don't belong here or this is not your country, I mean, really, whose country is it? This is a nation made up of migrants.
I know. And to think about, when they came to shore, yesterday's migrants, they left clothing, they left shoes, they just were running, for the bushes, trying to get on the dry land. I mean, they were willing to give up all their possessions, just to come here. So that is
Yeah, and I mean they
certainly
do. They
a desperation.
certainly they leave everything behind. The people that we see here at the center that we're helping when we're helping family reunification or recent arrivals, I mean they've left everything behind. Most of the time coming to a country where they don't even speak the language, and a lot of our people don't speak Spanish either. So there's a cultural barrier, there's a language barrier, there's a financial burden on them. They don't know anybody here. There's no support here, and if they're undocumented now, there's also no jobs or relief from the state or so people that say, oh, they're coming here to take our jobs, they're coming here to steal our resources. What resources? We have nothing to offer them. It's small agencies that help the people on the ground and with things like food or shelter. We help each find things. So when people make that argument that they're stealing all of our resources, there's nothing that we can offer them, and so they're risking literally everything because this bit of hope is all that they have.
Another argument that they might make is that a country has to secure its borders, that there is no country without secure borders. What would you tell people that are making that argument?
I I would say that this is a humanitarian crisis as well, and I think anybody can relate to that if it was one of their relatives, one of their children, one of their siblings who was just trying to survive, who had nothing else to live for, and if they didn't make this journey, they would have no alternative. I think that's where we have to kind of consider what we can do. Certainly there are always going to be immigration laws in any country, but when we're talking about this kind of migrant crisis and where people are coming to seek refuge, I mean that's a whole different issue. We're not talking about closing our borders. We're having to think about how we can help these people survive.
My great grandfather came from southern Italy uh, around 1903. Where did your relatives come from?
I am originally Mexican. I was born in Mexico, and my entire family resides there. Just or my immediate family migrated here when I was 6 years old.
So we're both children of immigrants.
We sure are.
Yeah. Now, thank you so much for talking to me. I think that we wanted to mention that there is a toy drive for the Migrant Center wrapping
Yes,
up
so
this weekend.
yes, that we're having our annual Christmas party, and we currently have 700 children registered for that. We have a little bit of a sweatshop back in our warehouse where we're organizing our toys, but we are still in need of a lot of toys. We're hoping that through the midst of the pandemic and just all the crises we've seen the past couple of years, we can bring a little bit of cheer to this community and to children that might not have gifts. So if anybody's looking to donate to our center, please feel free to do that.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Have a great Monday.
Thank you, John. Likewise.
Bye bye.